The immortal John Hancock here, and I am blessed to have an awesome guest on my channel today, Erin of Erin Plays. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, we're going to have a fun discussion today. We're going to talk about our childhood memories of playing some games, some video games. And so,
Yeah.
everybody's got their own childhood memories of playing video games. And sometimes we're limited to what we have. And then they sometimes aren't even great games. But
No.
we definitely have some games to talk about. Many of these are classics, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of bring on a different opinion and maybe a different experience. And so we're going to talk about our favorite video games growing up. Go ahead and start. And so what game would you like to begin with?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with Yoshi's Island because that was the first game I ever owned. So I started off good. And then after that, I found some others. But yeah, Yoshi's Island was the first game I owned. Well, technically, I got the Killer Instinct combo pack for Super Nintendo. But yeah, I remember my mom was like, "Oh, is that the only one they have?" Because she was like, it was like my first video game console. I'm an only child, like my parents didn't know. And then my dad's like, "Oh, let's get her Yoshi's Island also." And I'm like, "Okay, that looks cool." And so that's the first game that really hooked me.
All right. Yeah, for me, I didn't have an Atari at my house, and so I had to go to my cousins to play the Atari 2600. But I played a lot of combat and got my butt kicked because they're older, and so but the game that I got to play by myself at their house was Q*bert, and I really enjoyed playing Q*bert on the Atari 2600. It's not the best looking game, but gameplay wise, it's fantastic, and I still play it to this day. And I enjoy playing that version of Q*bert. It's fast. It's actually has faster gameplay than the arcade. I really love it, and it's still one of my timeless favorites. I play on the Atari 2600.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I've played Q*bert on like the arcade version. I haven't played the 2600 version.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good.
I like Q*bert.
All right, next up.
Next up, I kind of smushed these two together, and I know later these were on the same cart, but I have like Super Mario All-Stars and Mario World.
Oh yeah, great.
So yeah, I've played just growing up. It's just a lot of Mario stuff. I was really into Mario.
You had good taste.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you remember like exactly where you were? Were you playing on a living room TV? Were you playing, in bedroom? Like where did you typically play games growing up?
Growing up, I mostly played in my living room. The first way I was ever exposed to Mario was at a steak restaurant. They had like a red tent arcade machine. I don't know and it's like one half was Mario Brothers and one half was I think it was Excite Bike. But like I just was really into that. And then like at a friend's house I played Mario World and I'm like, ooh, and that's how I wanted a Super Nintendo. So but yeah, just in my living room I would just play and I would like go through like, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna play a little bit of Lost Levels. Now I'm gonna play some Super Mario 3. So I would kind of just like jump around.
Great.
But yeah, I don't know. I think just like the just how it looked in the world. It was just like a very welcoming, comfy like vibe, And I think it's a good start, I think, for games. Like, it's kind of like a obvious statement that Mario's a good place to start, but I think it is. So
that was a great collection, and to me. I was hoping that it would do more of those. Unfortunately, they didn't. But they finally got around to doing some of those on the Switch, which is great. But yeah, I love that package, especially Super Mario World. To me, that really defined what the Super Nintendo early on was capable of doing. Very colorful. Yeah. It's great to hear that. So my next game, another thing that I didn't have in my household, but I visited friends and they had a Commodore 64. And this is not a good game, but I went through and they had copies of games. They weren't even legal copies of the actual game. It had a floppy disk and had just a white label on it that said Transformers. Well, I was a huge Transformers fan. And so I wanted to play that because I like Transformers. And my mind was set up, I'm going to like this game. So I played the game. I was terrible at it. It wasn't a great game, but I played it over and over again. The short premise is that you can choose different Autobots and you have this like side-scrolling platform where you can fly. and you can transform in a vehicle, and you have to pick up these like pieces of the Autobot symbol and bring them back to the square. And then once you get the 4 pieces of the level, then you go on to the next level. And the gameplay is rough. You die all the time. It's not easy. And I still played it all the time. I'm sure my friends got tired of me asking, "Hey, can I play that Transformers game?" Yeah. Okay, you know. But yeah, that's it. Transformers. There's, I think, more than one Transformers game. This is the first one. This is not the game made by David Crane. This is the first one that came out '85.
Yeah.
Commodore 64.
Was there one on Famicom?
Yep.
Or am I picking that up? Oh,
yep.
There was? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw some, like, I've only seen footage of the C64 one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, it looks like one of those things where you're only playing it because it's Transformers.
That's right. And it probably sold because people like Transformers, not because it was a good game. All right, next up.
All right. So for me, another Yoshi one. I promise this will start switching up a little. But a Yoshi Story on N64.
Awesome.
Loved that one.
So what do you like? I remember that game having really vivid and interesting graphics.
I loved the world, like how there was just a lot of different things you could do, and I liked that there was no crying baby. It was just Yoshi.
Yeah, taking that out. Taking that out was great.
Like a big thing where I'm like, oh, like this is just Yoshi. This is what I wanted, because I like loved Yoshi as a kid. Like anything Yoshi I wanted. So I don't know. It was just a really cool little world, and I liked. I have like just a really. This is like a random memory. But like I just remember I still have the N64 controller. I was in my parents' living room, and I was like trying to paint my nails at the same time, and I got nail polish all over the controller. Awesome. And I was just really into the level where he's like flying like on an umbrella. I don't remember like the details, but yeah.
Nail polish on the controller. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm like, that is such like a girly like funny thing. And I'm like,
what color nail polish?
It's like, it was hot pink.
Okay, of course.
I'm like painting my nails, playing Yoshi, and it's just a mess. But I'm like, I like that I still have that. I'm like,
that's great. I mean, I love that game. I think it really stands out as a unique addition to the N64. I kind of wish they did more games like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, growing up, I rented a lot of Nintendo games. So the Nintendo Entertainment System wasn't the first console that we had in our home, but it was one that I remember playing the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so we rented a lot of games from local video stores, typically on the weekends, and Rygar comes to mind. I loved Rygar. I know a lot of people grew up with the arcade version, which is way different, but I like the Nintendo Entertainment System one. I remember reading it in a strategy guide, the black Nintendo guidebook that they had, and I got really excited seeing that and playing it. There was a lot of cool features that made it different than the arcade, but the big thing with that game was the sound. Absolutely fantastic soundtrack. In fact, I still every now and then go and listen to it just for the soundtrack. And so when I'm working and stuff, I'll pop the soundtrack on. It's great.
I haven't gotten far in that game, but from what I played of it, I'm like, I really should like just dedicate a sit down of just playing through Rygar, but it's cool from what I played. You can kind of power level yourself. It takes a long time, but you just sit around and go back and forth, kill a bunch of enemies, and then you get your health bar really up, and then the game's easier. Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, but yeah, I was a big fan of that company, Tecmo, making their games on the Nintendo Entertainment System. They made several classics that I still love today. And what else did you play?
Microsoft Return of Arcade is one that stuck out from my childhood a lot. I was so I kind of like think that is what got me into wanting to know, like, okay, well, what came, because even as a kid I was like, okay, well, what came before the Super Nintendo, and I got into older stuff. So on Microsoft Return of Arcade, I want to say it was for Windows 95.
Yep.
I would play a ton of like Dig Dug, Pac-Man, and Pole Position.
Mm-hmm.
I think Galaxian was on it too, but for some reason I didn't play that one so much, but it was the other 3 games. I think Galaxian was the weakest of the 4, in my opinion. Yeah. And then later on they did an anniversary edition and they included Ms. Pac-Man. And so, I think I saw that.
But that wasn't on the original release. And so, but yeah, it was a big deal back then where you're able to play, arcade games on your computer. That's when emulation was getting a lot better. And that was a great collection. Sold really well for them too.
Yeah, like so I think that so I like really I feel like it sounds silly to say like, oh, this arcade collection, but it did actually, I think that was a big reason why I got into retro and as an adult got further into it, you know. So I'm like, yeah, I love Microsoft Return of Arcade.
It was an influential release, and for many people,
Huh.
and at the time that was a big deal.
Yeah, cool.
All right, next up for me, I remember hearing the commercial for the portable Nintendo is what they were advertising on the radio, and it ended up being the Game Boy.
Nice.
And you know, the two big games that I had in my collection was Donkey Kong and Metroid 2.
Hmm.
But I played a ton of Metroid 2, and my parents loved it, and I'm
Uh,
experiencing it now as a parent. Like when I want to watch a show, and my daughter, who I love to death, wants to play Spider-Man for the 10th hour. It's like it's tough, but that's when I thinking back, like, gosh, parents loved the Game Boy because kids would play
yeah.
the TV set and, you know, on a little screen by themselves, great. And so I played a lot of Metroid 2. My parents loved it because then they could watch TV because we only had one television set. And
Mhm.
so that was really nice to have that. And
That's
so yeah,
awesome.
Metroid 2 is just a wonderful addition to the Game Boy library, exploratory. I love the sound. Again, the music in that is fantastic. And I really enjoyed playing that one quite a bit.
That's great. Yeah, because it's like Metroid. It's just I don't know why it's always intimidated me. I think it's because I'm bad at like where do I go type games. Like just
Mhm.
intimidate me. So I'm like, okay, Erin, one day just play a Metroid game.
Yep,
Like
do
so
it.
I'm trying to figure out which one to start with.
Put it on
And
your bucket list. I would say if you want to really start with, I think Metroid Zero Mission on Game Boy Advance. It looks
yeah,
better, and it's to me, it's like a nice place to start.
okay.
So
I've
that
heard
would
that,
be
so
a good place is start with the Game Boy Advance one.
okay. I've had like multiple people tell me that now, so I'm like, okay.
All right, next up for you.
For me, okay. So Barbie games.
Okay.
So I think, you know, this has a lot to do with, you know, you kind of mentioned this on Twitter, just like how, especially as kids, and if you weren't exposed to a lot, like I was saying, I was an only child. So I would gravitate towards licensed games or
Oh,
like
yeah.
I knew. So I was like, okay, well, I know Barbie. So I had like Barbie Supermodel on Super
Oh,
Nintendo.
yes. Yeah.
And I had and it's like even back then, I'm like, this sucks, but I played it a lot.
But did you like Barbie? I mean, did you have a lot of Barbie stuff?
Yeah, I did like Barbie.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, the thing is I mean, and did you enjoy the game because it had Barbie in it?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I didn't know they made Barbie Nintendo game. You know, this is like 7-year-old me. You know, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it was just a fun thing to pick up and play for a little bit. And then I go, oh yeah, I remember this is very good. And then I'd put in, you know, like Mario All Stars or something instead. But it was fun to play for a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's very kid friendly. Like I went back and played Barbie Supermodel because I don't remember playing it. So I said, okay, I'm going to finally play this. And I can see it as a kid's game if you're into Barbie. I mean, if you're a kid, I could see a kid easily playing it.
Yeah.
You know, definitely no doesn't. I mean, looking at an adult, I can see why. Oh, this is not going to last or look good. But still,
there's definitely worse games. There's definitely worse games like on the Super Nintendo. So I'm like, I guess I could have gotten a worse one. So
yeah,
Barbie Supermodel.
All right. Last for me, definitely Ghouls and Ghosts. And
nice.
You know, for me, Sega Genesis was a big part of my teenage years. The backstory for people that don't know, I wanted a Neo Geo. I showed my dad a picture in a magazine. He says, "That's great, son. You know how you can earn that?" Points to a lawnmower and says, "That's how you can earn it." And so I worked all summer and saved up enough money to get a Sega Genesis. And so Ghouls and Ghosts was the game that I played on my Sega Genesis that made me not feel disappointed with the graphics because it just knocked, you know, it is an arcade port, but it for me at the time, it just blew everything else away. It's a near perfect 16-bit port, and I love it. I still play it. I usually play it on Halloween every year. Nice. I really love the game. I beat it several times. You have to beat it twice to get the proper ending.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough too, but I absolutely love the game. Great animation, color, sound, gameplay. And I know I can play it, you know, all the time. I do. I
Yeah.
play it all the time, and I just don't get tired of it. It's just one of those childhood memory games that lasts. And it really motivated me to pursue collecting a lot of Sega Genesis.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's one of the best looking games ever. Like, I just think it just looks awesome, like the graphics and everything. And it's one of those games, even though it's like really hard, I've never gotten like super far in it or anything, but it's like you just keep wanting, you just keep trying. It's not like, I mean, at some point it's discouraging a little bit, but I mean, it's not like, oh, I give up. It's like, it's fun to keep trying. So I don't know. I think that's a really good franchise. And
we want to know your childhood memories and games that you played and experiences with them. Erin, it is such a pleasure to have you on this channel. Where can people find you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was fun. You can find me on YouTube, Erin Plays, on Twitter, ErinPlays_games. I hate that Twitter handle, but that's what it is. But yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Well, thank you so much. And make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell, as you will be notified of upcoming videos. And I hope you check out her channel. She's got a wonderful channel and well-polished videos. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Immortal John Hancock.
And Erin Plays.
You take care.
Bye.